Not trained. Not trained is where you want to start. I'm going to repeat. Not trained is where you want to start. Forget about Da Nang, Ho Chi Minh City, Saigon, Hanoi. Not trained, I'm serious, is where you want to start. So now let's get into the video.
This video is not only about women and dating in Vietnam, but it has some very useful information that will help with your day-to-day life in Vietnam. The people are friendly, and there is no real racism. After you have been here for a while, and when the police see you daily, they also become friendlier. But the Vietnamese people know little about the outside world. Then again, most Americans do not know much about the outside world. I think this is how it is for most people in every country. This is why YouTube is so popular. So Vietnam can be a nice place to live. Besides their food culture, you do not have to make any major adjustments. Almost everything you find in the United States you will find it here. I wish I could stay or return for a longer visit, but my body cannot adjust to their air quality. I got the impression that most of the single Vietnamese women want to get married, have a family, and all of that stuff. If you do not speak the language, it seems like they will work with you until you do. So, if you want to get married, have a family and all of that stuff, Vietnam is the place. I made a few videos about Vietnam from a Passport Brothers perspective because there are no videos on YouTube about Vietnam that can help Passport Brothers. After being here, I discovered why. There are no black people in Vietnam. I had been in Vietnam for almost 2 months, and I saw 3 black Americans, some people from Africa, some black Europeans, and 2 black Australians. Before we get into the video, I want to tell you what is most important. Before visiting any place in Vietnam, go to the bathroom first. Other than a major coffee shop or McDonald's, there are no public washrooms in any major city. One evening, I was sitting outside at a coffee shop, and a mother and her 7-year-old son sat down with her friends. Her son had to pee. His mother told him to go and pee. So he went to the street, pulled down his pants and peed. The biggest problem was that it was a very hot summer night, so that stuff smelled. I was told by other travelers that they have seen adult men do the same thing. The images you have been looking at is the beach town of Nha Trang, Vietnam. Nha Trang not only has beautiful Vietnamese women, but it has amazingly beautiful Vietnamese women. This is where you should start. Nha Trang is something special. You will think that most of the Vietnamese women in Nha Trang are out of your league, but they are not. Every major city in the world has beautiful women, but Nha Trang is something truly special. I am just showing images of different cities in Vietnam, but nothing in a particular order. So far, I have been showing Nha Trang, Vietnam. Vietnamese women are not the quiet and reserved type that you might think. They are assertive, but not aggressive. They will let you know when they are not happy, and they will let you know when they are interested in you. There is no guessing and trying to figure it out. When they are interested in you, it is best to strike right then and ask them for a date. Do not wait. Waiting will make them feel frustrated, and many do not know the cultural differences between their country and ours. But you must understand that most or many Vietnamese women date for marriage. So you cannot just jump from one girl to the next. So, when you ask one of them for a date, always have in your mind or brain, is she a girl you can marry? There will always be another beautiful Vietnamese woman right around the corner. This is why I said to go to the city of Nha Trang first. Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi also have many beautiful Vietnamese women. But not like Nha Trang. Nha Trang is something truly special. This part is also very important. I watched YouTube videos of Passport Brothers in Korea and Germany, and they all said the women there go to where the black men are. They actively look for black men. I think Vietnam is the same. I noticed when I was in Ho Chi Minh City the women became more friendlier after I had been there for about 10 days. It was the same way in Hanoi. I was in Hanoi for 14 days, and during this time, I saw 7 black people. And none of them were Americans. Plus, since I am about a 30-minute walk from the tourist area, I stood out. A black man in a Vietnamese neighborhood is going to stand out. I was not the only foreigner in this neighborhood, but I was the only black person in this area. Now, with that said, and people do talk. Plus, the women seem to get more friendlier, which makes me wonder if the women came to see a black man. If the women who might like a black man came to this neighborhood to take a look. After talking to a few of the local people in Ho Chi Minh City and in Nha Trang, and after thinking about what they said to me, I know they were talking about me, the only black person in the area. So, you might want to stay in one area for a few months and see if the women come to you. In this video, I do not show you any Vietnamese women because I had many difficulties. Plus, I am still trying to figure out how to film Vietnamese women without them thinking I want to date them. Vietnam is very traditional, and if you approach a Vietnamese woman, it means that you want to date her. And most Vietnamese women only date for marriage. I was in Ho Chi Minh City, which is also called Saigon, for 20 days. I was in Nha Trang for 7 days, and I was in Hanoi for 14 days. So I am going to tell you what I learned when it comes to the women in Vietnam. And not only Vietnamese women but also women of other nationalities. I am making this video because there are no black Americans in Vietnam. There are some Africans, but no black American men. So, there is not much information on YouTube regarding the women of Vietnam. You will find all types of Vietnamese women with different kinds of looks. Some are tall, and some are short. You have the ones that have the traditional look we see on television, but also many other different types of looks. So, take your time. Try to spend a month seeing all the different types of looks and get used to them. The last thing you want to do is pick one and then you meet others who are a lot more attractive. Because there are so many beautiful Vietnamese women, you really can't go wrong. So marry her personality. The Vietnamese women in Ho Chi Minh City are a lot more open-minded compared to the Vietnamese women in Hanoi. I was told that Hanoi has more young professional Vietnamese women in jobs that are considered prestigious. Considering Vietnam as a class society, these women want men who also have prestigious jobs. And these women do not know the difference between a black American and an African. So, because we are black, passport brothers might have problems with young college-educated Vietnamese women. However, all the other Vietnamese women will give us a chance. But do not make the mistake I made, and let her figure out how educated you are. I made the mistake of telling this one Vietnamese girl about my YouTube channels, and this seemed to turn her off. The look on her face was like, "So that is why you are not interested in me." Remember, Vietnam is a class society, and she works in a coffee shop. America is not a class society, and people in the United States do not care what job or family background the girl has. All we care about is if she is beautiful and not too crazy. I think they only know Africans, so they put us all in the same category. Ho Chi Minh City has experienced many black people from America, Europe, and Australia. And because of this, I think the people there can see the difference between an American and an African. When I talked to 2 African gold scammers, I realized I was being treated better than them by the Vietnamese people in Ho Chi Minh City. I think this is why Ho Chi Minh City seemed more open-minded compared to Hanoi. So, the Vietnamese people in Hanoi do not realize that if there is a black American or black European in the country, it means that he is probably highly educated and knows how to manage his money. It does not mean he has money. It just means he knows how to manage his money. However, there are no Africans or black people in Nha Trang. But Nha Trang has a lot of Russians and Chinese. And many single Russian and Chinese women. I was in Nha Trang for 7 days, and I saw one black man with his girlfriend. He did not acknowledge me, so he was not an American. The Russians, Japanese, and Korean foreigners in Nha Trang go there for vacation. This means that they have money. And because of this, I think the Vietnamese people in Nha Trang put all foreigners in the same category. In Saigon and Hanoi, trying to pick up a girl who works in the tourist areas is a hit and miss. I have experienced much more receptive Vietnamese women outside of the tourist areas. However, many of these women do not speak any English. And even if you do not speak any Vietnamese, and them know English, they seem to still be willing to give it a try. Just always remember that most Vietnamese women want a husband, kids, family, and all of that stuff. Plus, what Vietnamese men might think is unattractive in a woman, we Western men might think is very attractive. So, do not ever think she is out of your league. Many Vietnamese men are shorter than Western men, so a tall girl to them might be unattractive. However, she will still be shorter than most Western men, but taller than most Vietnamese men. Vietnamese is a very difficult language to learn. I have been here for almost 2 months, and I still cannot say thank you in Vietnamese. Plus, since few English-speaking people go outside of the tourist areas Vietnam, most Vietnamese do not get the chance to practice their English. So, to find a girl who speaks English, you might have to go on the dating apps. I was told that in Vietnam, the dating app called Tinder is good. Yes. I know what Tinder is in other countries, but since Vietnam gets very few Americans, I think this is why Tinder is different in Vietnam. Nha Trang is filled with Russians. I liked all the Russians I met. One man from England told me that before the pandemic, Nha Trang was called Little Moscow. As you can see from these images, Nha Trang has many storefronts in Russian. He also told me that there are now not as many Russians as it was before the pandemic. My opinion is that Nha Trang is filled with Russians. There are a lot of single Russian women in Nha Trang, and most of them are looking for boyfriends. This is because most of the Russian men are there with their wives and children. So, there are not a lot of single Russian men. Plus, Nha Trang seemed to be a family vacation city. Vietnam seems to have a shortage of single men, which might be the situation in Nha Trang. While in Nha Trang, I saw some beautiful Russian women, but not as beautiful as many of the Vietnamese women. So, to attain a beautiful woman, you should start with Nha Trang, then go to Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City. If you do not find what you are looking for, then go to Hanoi. While in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi, you will have better luck if you leave the tourist areas. However, most of those women do not speak English, and Vietnamese is difficult to learn. Nha Trang also has a lot of Japanese, but they are mostly there with their families. From being in Nha Trang, I discovered that I am highly attracted to Chinese women. However, I was also told that Chinese women can be crazy and it might be best to leave them alone. There were not a lot of single Chinese women, and the ones I saw were beautiful. Their body type is between a Japanese and a Korean woman. However, many Vietnamese women in Nha Trang were more beautiful than the Russian and Chinese women. Nha Trang is very special. Many passport brothers have been to Da Nang, Vietnam. But they should have gone to Nha Trang. My problem with Nha Trang was the air pollution. I just could not take it. If it were not for the air pollution, I would skip Thailand and the other countries and stay in Nha Trang. In addition, I want to say that all the cities in Vietnam have a lot of things to do outside of the tourist area, where the locals go. The tourist areas are not Vietnam. They are just for tourists. Google Maps shows pictures of different places. Just keep looking, and you will find something. Flower gardens, camping grounds, nature parks, water parks and more. The Korean women in Ho Chi Minh City seem to like black men. All you have to do most of the time is look their way, and they will let you know if they are interested. In fact, Japanese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Chinese women all act this way. I think Russian women are used to their men being very aggressive and assertive. But give them about 30 minutes, and they will figure out that there might be a cultural difference. When this happens, they will put themselves in a position where you can approach. And some of the younger Vietnamese girls get very excited when you approach. They get big smiles on their faces and everything. And some are not sure what to do. They are very interested but are not sure how to act. So you must ask her on a date right then and there. Or when you see her a few days later, she will let you know that she is not happy. So, men, when you approach a Vietnamese girl, you must follow through by asking her on a date. After you get into a relationship with one of these Vietnamese women, you might experience the following. I watched many of the younger Vietnamese girls with their boyfriends, and it looks like when they are into you, they are really into you. I was like, damn girl. Can the man go to the bathroom without you? Here is some information that might be helpful. I want to add that all cigarettes with a white tip are for women and gay men. These are the Camels and the Marlboro in the blue box. In addition, if you mail anything to the United States, like a postcard, make sure the stamps you buy have glue. Make sure any envelopes you buy have glue, and this includes the stuff you buy at the post office. Plus, it takes about 1 month for mail to get from Vietnam to the United States. Google Maps. Google Maps almost gave me a heart attack more than a few times. It always sent me the longest route. I dropped off my laundry and decided to explore the area. I found myself at the lake. It was only a 10-minute walk. The following week, I dropped off my laundry once again. However, I used Google Maps to find the lake. It had me walking for almost 1 hour. Then, I found myself on the other side of the lake. I used Google Maps to find a print shop, but this time I studied the map. The map it showed had me walking all over the place. The print shop was only 3 blocks away. So, do not trust Google Maps. You need a VPN. I purchased a very popular VPN before I left America. It worked with most of my banks except for one. I had to buy another VPN and it works with my bank. It is Norton VPN. It works with all my banks. However, it does not work well with Disney+. Disney has stronger security than my banks. I had it set the VPN to France to get it to work with Disney. While overseas, I used credit cards and debit cards. I used the debit card to get cash out of the ATMs. I only use the ATMs connected to a bank. Vietnam has card readers on the ATMs not connected to a bank. Plus, I discovered some debit cards will not work in Vietnam, probably because of the card readers. The debit cards that do not work in Vietnam are the international debit cards such as Wise and Revolt. Grab is Vietnam's version of Uber. I got 2 credit cards. One has a $500 limit I used with Grab. And the other has a higher limit I only used for hotels and plane tickets. The best thing about Grab is that if you have no cash and want to get home, you can always call a Grab, and the money is taken from your credit card. Plus, if you lose your debit or credit card, with Grab, you will always be able to get food. So, I only used my credit cards for the airlines, Airbnb and Grab. So those are mostly always safe. Another thing I want to say is that I have hardly seen any black people in Vietnam. And the black men I've seen from Europe are a bunch of assholes. Not all, but most. I met a black man from France, and he was cool. But he was the only one in the 2 months I had been in Vietnam. They try to imitate black American men. But the one thing that gives them away that they are not Americans is they do not know black American men's culture. Since I was a kid back in the 70s, black American men have always acknowledged each other in a situation where there are not a lot of black people. We all say hi, hello, or some other type of greeting. We always acknowledge each other. We do not have to know each other. All that is required is we see another black man on the street. Black Europeans and black people from other parts of the world do not do this. If you black Europeans were so great, you would not be trying to imitate black American men. We are not trying to imitate you. This also goes for black Australians and other black people from other parts of the world. No one is trying to imitate any of you. They want to say that black America does not have any culture. If we did not have any culture, then what are you trying to imitate?